Hey everyone, Christine here with Iowa Diabetes, and I have with me today our awesome dietitian, Sabina.
Hi, everybody.
And we are excited to talk to you about going green.
Yes.
You know, it's March, we got spring, we got thinking about our gardens, March Madness, St. Patty's. So today we're going to be going over really some of the benefits of eating some green vegetables. And how much should you eat? What are the benefits? And how can you actually add them into your routine?
Yeah. And we do know that the average American only eats about a cup and a half per day. So let's find some ways to maybe add some more.
Right. And you're looking at wanting to do like 3 to 4 cups a day. So
Right.
we really do want to increase that.
Okay.
So why greens? Yeah, we're going to move us down. Are you dizzy from that? No, just kidding. So why green? Well, you know, your spinach, your kale, there's other vegetables too, obviously have a lot of great health benefits, but usually the greener, the darker the leafy green, the more health nutrients you're going to have in there.
Absolutely.
So what are some different nutrients and vitamins that are in our greens?
Gosh, there's so many different ones. We've got a big list on here. So lots of benefits, such as those wonderful vitamin A's and C's, antioxidants, fiber. We're going to dive into some of these and learn all about them.
You know what kind of stands out here to me is the calcium. So my kids aren't real big like milk drinkers, but my son will eat spinach. So part of me is like, okay, well, at least, you know, here's one way to like get some of that calcium into your diet if you're not like a big dairy fan. So I thought that was kind of a unique thing that I learned about spinach.
Yeah.
So one of the things you might see on here is something called phytonutrients. We can switch to the next slide. So what are these phytonutrients? They're different than what you're considering your vitamins, minerals, and macronutrients like your proteins or your carbohydrates. Think of them like the immune system of a plant. And so for us, you know, they can fight off against viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites. And we're learning more and more that there's a lot of benefits for humans in ingesting these phytonutrients. So we're going to talk about a few of those here right now. So antioxidants, you know, you've probably heard about antioxidants like vitamin C and so forth. What do those do? You know, when you have these free radicals, they damage our DNA, they damage our cells. So if we can try to prevent that damage, that's actually going to prevent a lot of diseases. One, you know, reducing inflammation in the body. We know there's a lot of illnesses that are linked to that. I mean, just think of arthritis and inflammation of the joints and how that can affect your overall life. You know, we're going through a time of COVID right now, and so there's a lot of thoughts on our immune system
and keeping it healthy and strong. And
the importance of that. And some phytonutrients actually have antimicrobial effects, so fighting off some of the bad bacteria in our systems, even viruses. So that's kind of a neat thing with eating more greens in our diet.
So you're telling me if I eat vegetables, I'm going to be healthier?
I think so. And I went back too far. So how do we go back one on our? I double clicked too much. I clicked too much, but that's okay because you know what? We're all a work in progress here, right?
There we go.
Blocking formation of some carcinogens, the effective carcinogens, you know, cancer obviously is a real thing. So if we can prevent, you know, we're going to be exposed to radiation and different things in our food. So if we can kind of block some of those, that's helpful, right? So that talks about the anti-cancer. And some even regulate hormones, such as estrogen and insulin.
Wow.
So we're talking about diabetes. I mean, that actually can have a direct effect on your diabetes.
Yeah.
And then we'll go one more over here. Now, all of us, of course, want to age gracefully, right?
Yes.
And phytochemicals and nutrients actually do help that. You know, they prevent some of our cells from premature aging and dying. They can actually protect our nerves. So, you know, the neuroprotective for our brain. So keep those brain cells active and functioning at peak optimization longer, right?
Yeah, this is one that always surprises me, the benefit for the brain and memory and, you know, reducing the risk of Alzheimer's potentially and Parkinson's.
Yeah, there's been more and more studies and research studying that because it is showing to have those neuroprotective properties. So it's really neat actually to, you know, you can actually improve your health by just eating healthy.
Yeah. There's also some other benefits too. So I love talking about fiber, and vegetables are very rich naturally in fiber. Lots of benefits to fiber, but unfortunately, most people don't get enough fiber. So it's really important to try to find ways to include more.
So there was a study with type 2 diabetics. One group got 30 grams of fiber in their diet a day. The other group did not. That was the only change that they did. No lifestyle, other modifications, no medication changes. And every person in the group that had that 30 grams of fiber had a reduction in A1C and weight loss.
Wow.
So that is, when I talk about things I would like my patients to incorporate into their routine, add a glass of cold fiber water before meals. Really start adding those green leafy vegetables with the fiber in it. It's going to make a big difference in your diabetes, but also in weight loss.
Yeah, and a couple other things that it does is it can help with cholesterol. So that's wonderful. Prevent cancer potentially. And as far as the weight loss that you mentioned, it helps us keep fuller longer. And so people just feel more satisfied after meals, which is great. It could potentially prevent overeating. So what is recommended? It's about 21 to 25 grams for women and men 30 to 38. And like I said, most people don't get there. They're about halfway. Most Americans get about halfway there.
So last night I had a spinach wrap, like a low carb, and I was just looking at the fiber, and just that one wrap alone, 15 grams of fiber. So I was like, well, that would be an easy way of, getting something like that. And then I put some spinach in it. So that added some more, but just from that one meal alone, an easy way of incorporating. So
yeah,
definitely doable, everybody.
Very much so.
All right, so what are these? I got asked the other day, is a potato a vegetable?
Well, yes, but there is a difference. So I always talk about the quality of our vegetables. So we do have starchy and non-starchy vegetables. And when we have diabetes, we really got to pay attention to this. So your starchy vegetables are your corn, your potatoes, your peas. And so what that means is that they can potentially increase your blood sugar levels if you have too much of them, versus like your broccoli, who's very, very low in starch and will have very minimal impact on blood sugar levels. So potatoes are still healthy. They still have nutrition. There's just not something you want to choose all the time. So we really want to promote those non-starchy vegetables, those dark leafy greens, like you said. Great options for those with diabetes to help manage blood sugar levels.
Well, the potatoes, a lot of those nutrients are in the skin.
Yes.
And I don't know if all of us eat the skin when we're eating our mashed potatoes, right?
I just love that you brought that up, because I always encourage people to eat the skin, and they're like, even with my mashed potatoes? I'm like, yes, even with your mashed potatoes, keep the skin on, because that's where all the fiber is. And like you said, the nutrition. And so again, with that fiber component, we're going to see those benefits. And so if we peel that off, we lose a lot of that nutrition. Yeah.
Well, and you made a point too, as far as calories and carbohydrates, when we're talking about preventing overeating, but still enjoying our foods, adding a big portion of those green leafy vegetables first. And then like your starchy vegetables are more like a side dish.
Yeah.
Versus like the main dish.
That's good perspective. Absolutely.
So moving on to our next slide. So we just talked about how much to eat.
So I think this is just a great visual if you're thinking about portioning and what is this supposed to look like. So you'll notice with this plate, half of it is vegetables, but more specifically, it's those non-starchy vegetables that we're promoting. And then you have that little square there where the rice is, and that could potentially also be corn or potatoes and things that are more starchy. So half the plate, really those non-starchy vegetables.
And so when you're looking at this plate, one thing I talk to my patients about for also preventing, overeating is eating the proteins and the green leafy vegetables first. That's going to actually signal to the brain that you're fuller sooner.
Yeah.
So if you start there and then work with your grains or your starches second, you're just naturally going to eat less of them. So just another way for portion control, that glass of cold fiber water before the meal, your order in which you eat foods can make a big difference. Oh gosh. Canned green beans.
Yes. So this is another big question I get is like, can I eat canned vegetables? It's good to incorporate all sorts of vegetables, and for some of us, sometimes we have canned, and that's okay. If I had my preference would always be fresh or frozen, just because nutritionally you're going to get that fiber piece that's often missing in our canned food. The other thing with our canned vegetables is they tend to be high in sodium, which is salt. So we just have to be really careful, because that can raise blood pressure, which is not so good. So fresh, frozen is best. And then I do have a couple links on here to kind of show you guys a couple things.
We've been switching the mouse back and forth here.
So this is a great website, and we'll put the link at the bottom for you guys. But when you're shopping in season, you can save a lot of money. One question that I get is like, okay, well, what do I do when I buy that vegetable? Because I buy it and then it just goes bad on me, and then I throw it away, and then I'm frustrated. I would be frustrated too. So you can use this as a resource to really learn how to pick and store vegetables. So here on this link here, it will tell you how to select asparagus, And then what I found really neat is I actually just tried this the other day and it worked. But just wrapping the ends of the stalk in a wet paper towel and placing it in a plastic bag will keep it in the fridge longer. So that's great. So now you have a little more time to get that courage to prepare that asparagus. So less waste, so more likely to eat your vegetables.
When I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like look at all my vegetables and like figure out, because this is fantastic, right? And I don't like to go to the store like multiple times a week. You know, I got to your younger kids, and as you know, if you have younger kids, bringing them to the store isn't always awesome.
No.
So if I can like once a week, but still keep my fresh vegetables, like I think that's just fantastic. So definitely going to be utilizing that website.
Yeah. And the other strategy you can take too is, buying fresh for maybe earlier in the week and then choosing maybe frozen towards the end of the week if you only go once a week. So that way, towards the end of the week, things aren't going bad on you as well. If you're choosing frozen, one thing just to be cautious of is seasonings, right? There's lots of things they might put in there. So we do really want to keep it simple. You can season it yourself, but just keep it simple when purchasing those.
Perfect.
This is another great resource. And within this resource, it tells you how to prepare and cut these things, right? Because that's the next step. So now we've bought it. What do we do next with it? So this website does really allow you to see a variety of recipes on how to actually prepare some of these vegetables to encourage you to increase your variety.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I remember the other day just learning how to cut an avocado and like tricks of it, right? How to get like the seed out. So this is super helpful.
Yeah, so here's the asparagus again. Lots of great recipes to just encourage you to try something new.
Very cool.
Put us back at the bottom here.
We're taking a trip again.
And so flavor. So how do you like to flavor your vegetables?
I just like a Creole seasoning. I like sometimes like some fresh lemon juice. I'll put that on there.
Lemon juice is great. Yeah, lemon juice is one of my favorites too. And I know some people like to do sides like hummus, for example, to have a little dip. My favorite is, I will also add the link to this to the Mrs. Dash website. But Mrs. Dash has a variety of seasonings that are salt-free, so great for those who have high blood pressure. But people don't realize how big the variety is. There is all sorts of different flavors, so it's not just that traditional. My favorite one is the lemon pepper, so that's the one we really enjoy, and my 3-year-old even likes it. So yeah, it's just a great way to kind of season things up. And I always say you can take the best vegetable, and then if you don't prepare it right, it just might not taste good. That's with any food, right?
Yeah,
so you do have to put some love into that vegetable and preparing and seasoning it correctly.
And even the right like crisp, right? I mean, as we talk about asparagus, like in my opinion, overcooked mushy asparagus,
not so good.
No thanks. Nicely cooked with a little crisp, like I'll eat it all day. So definitely something to, consider with how you're cooking it, right?
Yeah. So as springtime comes around, maybe you consider a garden, especially if you've got little ones or grandkids. The more they're involved, the more likely they're going to eat vegetables. So, and some things are actually surprisingly easy to grow, like tomatoes. We did tomatoes on our deck this past year, and we had a ton of tomatoes. We did cucumbers too, and they just grew. I don't think I did very much. Like I watered them every once in a while, and they just kept coming. So yeah.
Yeah, we did a garden this year and my kids loved it. And you're right, it did help them to want to try more things because they were part of it. And then you have like the freshest vegetables, right? You're more likely to use them because they're right in your backyard.
Exactly. And did you feel like they tasted differently?
At least I knew there was like not a lot of like pesticides and they just tasted fresher.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. I'm like, this tastes really good.
So what are some ways of adding greens to your diet? Now we talked about we both have kids. And I have some patients who are like, I just don't like vegetables. So sneak them into your food. You can easily sneak spinach into a smoothie. You can use, non-fat Greek yogurt to add some protein to help you feel fuller. Some low-calorie fruit juice, and you can make a really good low-calorie healthy smoothie that's not going to taste like vegetables, right? I always have spinach at home, so I replace spinach. We have a sandwich here, or a wrap, instead of like your iceberg lettuce, just because nutritionally you're going to get a lot more fiber, a lot more nutrients.
Yeah, I like the egg idea. So we do a lot of omelets in our house, and it's a great way to add them in, and the kids, they don't even mind. They're in there. So
another trick that's not on here that I'll do a lot is, so I'll make a vegetable soup and I'll like blend up most of my vegetables.
Oh, yes.
And with a chicken broth, And then you can't even tell what vegetables are in there. And then if I want to use like, maybe chopped new carrots that aren't quite as, blended, but my kids will eat that. I've met lots of adults that will eat it and not even know like, oh, there's this many vegetables in there. So that's another trick of incorporating them into your diet.
Soups are great to sneak those in. That's a good idea.
Well, we hoped you learned a little something today with the importance of going green and incorporating those veggies. If you have any questions, please comment below. We're happy to answer those. We're going to put those links in the comments today too. And enjoy this nicer spring weather and going green.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.